You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. Getting into the discussion there on the top story, we've got two eminent guests joining us this evening. Dr. Nilanjan Banik, senior economist, and Anil Padmanabhan, senior economic journalist, joining us this evening to take these deliberations on the Indian growth story and the elimination of extreme poverty in India. Coming first to you, Mr. Banik, how does one see this data that's been presented purely in terms of challenges? Looking at the previous estimates that one have seen, how does one look at these numbers?
So let me define the poverty number on the basis of which they have come to this estimate that the poverty ratio has fallen to now 2%. So if your monthly consumption expenditure in rural area is less than 789 rupees, and in urban area, if it is less than 967 rupees, then you are considered poor. And going by this definition, what has happened over the last 10 years, we see that the poverty rate has fallen from 12% to only 2%. So basically, it is a way of saying that India has almost eliminated extreme poverty. Now, this is something which is not surprising, because if you see what has happened over the last 10 years, you will find that a lot of activities, in particular the government intervention happening in the rural area. First of all, what you see is a higher amount of capital expenditure, where we see a bigger number of rural roads being built. In the year 2021, we have seen that every day close to 33 kilometers of roadway is being built in India. Now, what does that mean? It means that the village is actually getting access to the market. So when it comes to marketing their produce, the villagers are actually getting access to the market. In addition to that, we also find, because of now roads and electricity as well as internet connectivity being built in the village area, we see that there is an opportunity to do business, because now most of the people are now linked with Aadhaar card. It is they are having a bank account, and they can do digital transaction, which means that if they want to do business, they can do business sitting in their rural hinterland. So basically, few things are happening. Connectivity has improved the market access. Digitization actually has helped in terms of the opportunity to do business. In addition to that, in terms of health indicators, if I look into the people defecating in the open, 2011-12 census was saying that almost 53% of the people did not have access to toilets. But now what we see, 99% of the rural population have access to toilet. So all these things are indicating to the fact that health conditions are also improving. Even if you look into the stunted growth numbers, that has actually improved. So when you have a better health indicator numbers, that also means that you are capable enough in terms of being a more productive workforce. So basically, you can actually go out and take up jobs, let's say in the rural areas. In terms of when the roads are being built, there is a requirement for not so skilled type of labor. Even if you look into Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, you find that many there is an opportunity to actually work in terms of constructing urban and rural the building that we are talking about. So all this thing, if you take into account together, in terms of opportunity, creating opportunity for businesses in the rural area, in terms of connectivity with the urban market, in terms of a better health indicator, which means the rural population are also becoming more productive. All these things are actually helping to create income. And because of that, we see that the rural wage rate, in a way, has increased. And we also find that in terms of Gini coefficient, which actually measured the income inequality, the Gini coefficient between urban, if you compare between the urban and the rural area, earlier what used to happen, people in the urban area almost used to spend 91% more than what the people in the rural area were spending. But now what we see is That has come down because now rural spending has gone up. Now this ratio has fallen to 71%. So
Mr.
better health, better productivity, better opportunity to do income, all these are leading to a fall in poverty rate.
Okay, Mr. Padmanabhan, has the government's strident push, especially for redistribution, that's helped, elevate consumption, especially in rural part of India, which is showing strong numbers.
See, Anil, the redistribution that this government has undertaken in the last decade is largely been influenced in the latter 5 years because of the COVID impact.
Okay.
And the free food grain distribution that we saw it helped immensely in mitigating the fallout of the COVID pandemic. But the critical thing in the new consumption numbers, which you're alluding to, which is the data on which the new poverty estimates are being made by Brookings Institute, is telling us a very important thing. I just want to add it to what Banik was saying, is that the disposable incomes have gone up pretty sharply. So for the first time, the spending on food, whether it's urban or rural, has dropped below 50%. Now, food is inelastic. It doesn't move up and down when prices move up. So when disposable income expands, as we are witnessing implicitly in this data, then the expenditure on durables go up. Durables, I mean two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, or other consumer items, goods items that we have. That spending is beginning to take place. And within food, there's a shift away from cereals to proteins. So all these point to one simple fact that the aspirational economy in India is beginning to take root and beginning to get flight. So which is good news for the economy in general, for the consumer economy in particular, because the nature of the consumer economy is going to transform. It will grow vertically and horizontally. And of course, it's great news for all the people of India.
Dr. Banik, when one takes a look at, the world's largest population in India, does India stand to gain or lose, with this data showing?
In the world. Now, if you see in terms of the demand for our laborers, we have a huge amount of skilled laborers, because if you look into the global capability centers of most of the multinationals, these are now based out of India. So we are actually helping out most of the world services sector, be it the banking, be it the insurance, be it the management, all of this are being provided by skilled laborers which are based out of India. Now, having said that, there is a need for giving importance to primary education, because as you know that India's population is the largest in the world. So although we are seeing an opportunity getting created, because thanks to India's digital economy, thanks to India's IT sector, I think the hour has come where we should also try to pull away laborers from the agricultural and the construction sector, somehow impart skill to this type of laborers, and that should start with the primary education, because once you ensure that the primary education system is in place, something which has happened with respect to South Korean and Japanese economy, because they put an emphasis on the primary education, and the outcome of that we can see over a period of next 30 or 40 years, they become a developed country.
Okay, Mr. Padmanabhan.
Same thing should happen with India as well. Yeah.
Mr. Padmanabhan, when one takes a look at India, what is that, that shields India's economy from these global headwinds that we see many countries like Japan, UK, all getting, even China, getting affected?
See, Anil, we need to trace that to the COVID, impact of COVID. COVID impacted every country in the world. Nobody was spared, including the developed countries like United States. Most of these countries reacted very differently. They adopted a stimulus approach where they stimulated the economy with loose money. And the end result is, of course, rampant inflation, which we saw over the last 2 years. Basically, it has peaked out. In India's case, the strategy they adopted was to keep the gunpowder dry and use whatever limited fiscal resources they have to ramp up capital expenditure in the economy. So the capital expenditure has grown almost trebled in the last 3 years. And as a result, it has generated the kind of unexpected growth that we are witnessing. For the simple reason that capital spending is always got a multiplier impact. The normal thumb rule is about 2.5, which means if you're spending 1 lakh crore of capital investment, you're going to have about 3.5 lakh crore of benefits, of growth benefits that will accrue to the economy. And my belief is that added to this is the digital public infrastructure that India has created, which has improved the velocity of economic activity in this country, which cannot be really measured because it's not very tangible. But all of this is combining together to see the dramatic growth numbers that we have witnessed. And the last, of course, we saw the third quarter growth of 8.4%.
Well, clearly the spotlight turning very much on India, and India emerging as a beacon of hope, especially when it comes to opportunities for investors. We'll leave it there. Thank you. Appreciate both gentlemen for joining us this evening, Dr. Banik as well as Anil Padmanabhan.